it's because I can't see you as well, so it's one of those things. Like I don't know whether or not right now you're sipping a drink and I can't see that you're about to. Yes. I closed my hand in the fridge today. Well, not my hand, but my finger. As Kim was walking past, I was like, "Oh, close the fridge," and it shut on my fingers to let her past. So, injuries. Did I tell you about my blood test that I took as well? Did I tell you about that?
I don't think so.
All right. So, taking a blood test, like I was saying before, a lot of the time with everything in life, we want to kind of like get information, or like we do it blind, right? So if we get data, we then know what to actually do, rather than do things blind, have expensive urine, as it were, if it's all nutrition and all the rest of it. So get sent this blood test, and they've given you 4 like finger prick things, and they're like, you should fill this jar up of blood, right? So do the first one. No, they tell you like warm your hand, spin your hand, and all this stuff and things. Do the first one. It's like 3 drops, and I'm like, this thing is not going to fill up. So I'm like, okay, cool. And it says if it takes, after 2 minutes, if it's not like filled, like try another finger. And in the notes, it's as if like 1 finger will fill it. On a worst case scenario, maybe 2 fingers. I ended up having to do 4 pricks, and I didn't even quite get it to where it needed to be. But like blood wasn't coming out, so which is fun.
You got bad circulation in your hands. You've learned basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's even circulation. I think it's more like
you don't have any blood.
Yeah, it's like there's no like obviously it might have like clotted real quick. So it's like, hey, we're bleeding here, and it like clots up, and then it can't come out, like thickens, as it were. But I don't know. It'd be funny though, wouldn't it, if somebody in the comments would be like, this is major, this means that you've got X, Y, Z, and there's like, I'm just oblivious to all this thing, just laughing and joking about the fact that I had to, and I ended up pricking my finger 4 times. Not the same finger. I did like 1 and then 2 and then 1. And then I had all these plasters. And then obviously when you prick your fingers, you can't type because you've got plasters on, and they're a bit like sore to begin with. But hopefully my results will come back in the next week, because they've already hit the lab. Because I got an email about that today, which is good. So.
Nice. Yeah, I do remember you saying you struggled to fill up something, so that must have been the blood test chat. I wasn't sure if there's another one.
Yeah, definitely was a blood test jar. So what we're cracking on about today, I have no topics today.
Sounds of it. No topics.
I've exhausted myself on my own video. I recorded my own video last night because I was a little bit away. But I guess we should probably talk about the Olympics, because that's important. I had a thought about just watching it and stuff. So we can talk about that. I can intro in and talk about that, and then I'll hopefully leave you to do the rest.
Ad lib.
All right, let's jump into it. We've got 20 minutes.
We could potentially talk about some of the topics that I mentioned yesterday, but I don't know if that's pod-worthy content. But
if we get to it, yeah, it makes sense.
Got plenty of filler.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sweet. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Be a Doorstop. We're here to talk about purpose, business, mindset, and all the rest of it. And entrepreneurship as well. Should add that to the list. Have you been watching the Paris Olympics? Tom and I have. And we've been really enjoying it. Haven't we, Tom? I hope.
Yeah. I thought the first thing was the question. Have you been watching it? Rather than to the audience, so I was nearly answering then.
Yeah, we'll it's because I can't see you as well, so it's one of those things. Like, I don't know whether or not right now you're sipping a drink and I can't see that you're about to... Yes. But one thing I found incredibly interesting is how much verbalization there is about strategy this time round. So, when they say, they run a good game or whatever, the lingo that they use, because you have preliminary, first round, kind of like, what do you call it? Like,
good save.
quarterfinals and all this stuff, right? They have like many rounds to get through to the final. And what you want to do is like play a good game where you don't exhaust yourself in those rounds, but sometimes like you'll run. So for example, like 400 meters, first 200 meters, you run fast, and then the rest of it, you'll slow down because you don't want to have to reignite the speed in the last kind of 100 meters. So I feel like I've noticed maybe, and people are more vocal about the strategy of like how to run and the run up to the final, which I found is interesting. And it's kind of like game management, right? Or like tire management in Formula One. You like don't realize that actually trying to manage the tires to the end of the race or whatever. So I thought that was really interesting. And the second thing I found was a bit like interesting, but also difficult. There's a guy called Noah Lyles, an American sprinter and 200 meters. And he's trying to create like more popular kind of like following of athletes in the sport of athletics, rather than have it something that athletics and Olympics is kind of like forgotten, like those individuals are like forgotten about. Because if you think about the NFL or if you think about the NBA, there's always like characters, right? Like main character vibes and main character energy. And it's funny because he's been critical of the fact that like I think the NBA have this like world champions or something, but they're not world champions because the competition is just in the States. So how can we call ourselves world champions? So then he's like, we're world champions because we're playing on a world, like against the world, right? Against other people in different countries. And I thought his strategy of being more kind of like a character, it's still him, right? But drawing attention to then be able to, as he says, like ascend the sport, as in be somebody beyond the sport. And I'm like, there's no resource to like follow individual athletes. Well, it's usually like, these are the sports and this is all the sports. So you can like follow the sport. But if you're very interested in like particular athletes, there's no way, there's no easy way to like follow that person when it comes to like competitions and stuff, because there's all of them have different schedules and all the rest of it, unless the one athlete does it themselves, right?
Yeah.
Where they have their own app and they follow through.
Whatever.
Yeah. I think that's what's inspired me to build the Wales Abroad app. There's no way to follow Welsh athletes that are a part of Team GB. So in having something that calls them out and specifically where they're competing, you build like an affinity towards the individual rather than, oh, it's just this whole massive team. You like get to know somebody.
Have you shared that with, I think there's a BBC Sports Wales Twitter account where they just share the Welsh supporters in the Olympics, but also other things. But that would probably be quite good to share with them.
I shared it with Sport Wales, and they were like, we don't promote this kind of stuff. What? Like, this is a good thing. So I'm like, when you get a bit disappointed that you think,
was that in a tweet or was that in a email?
It was in an email, because I was like, hey, you might want to like write about this, or kind of like point people to it.
Just tweet them. It would be funny. We don't support these. Oh, you don't support your own athletes?
Yeah, it's just funny that like you think that a government agency would be happy that people of their communities are like building stuff to like help bring attention. And if I was like a part of them, I'd be like, this is dope. Like, how can we support you? Like, can we give you a little bit of money to like keep it going? Or could we give you a bit of money to like add these extra things in? Because it'd be really cool. Now, obviously, sometimes it's like, well, we've planned the 12 years and this is not a part of our plan. So we can't, not 12 years, 12 months. So we don't have any resources or anything to like help out. So I'm like, I would be a bit more like fluid and compliment people and kind of include them in on the ride, rather than like, no, we're the only people that can talk about Welsh athletes. I'm like, well, why not promote this thing? And then maybe you'd be like, actually, this is a great idea. Unless they're thinking, this is a great idea, we should steal this, which would be fine. And they'd be like, we'll just build our own version where we follow Welsh athletes. Because I think that'd be great. Like similar to any country, right? Where, especially if they're in a kind of a collective, like Scottish athletes. Do you know which ones are Scottish? No, unless they sell you, right? So you'd like follow them, or like people from Guernsey or wherever. So I think it'd be a cool idea to have an app where you could follow individual athletes across their competitions. And yeah, you could follow them on Twitter and all that stuff, but you get a whole host of other stuff, don't you? So
yeah, that makes
sense. Yeah, what are some of the thoughts and some of the things that have come to your mind as have you been watching it?
I'm gutted that the GB men didn't play as well as they probably could have in the quarterfinals to at least go for a potential medal.
In hockey,
They're playing, with hockey. They're playing India. India got a red card within 15 minutes, and they literally played like Stoke City. They just dropped back, soaked up all the pressure, waited till it was sort of a shootout at the end. And they've got really good skills, and they've got a good keeper, so they just won it off that. They just played the long game.
Any team that goes for shootouts, it's just like, it's boring. Like any team that plays for penalties, it just doesn't make sense.
Very strategic when you know, actually from a skill set point of view, India have always been good. So you don't want to rely on more risk if you've got a good keeper and you've got players that are very skillful. You want to take it in your own hands and just be a bit more direct. And that's the thing, is I understand GB were trying to be patient of pass it round, but if someone's doing a really, really low block and you're passing it around, well, they're just doing one or two steps either side. So you're not really creating a space, and you're not really tiring them out because you're not drawing them out. Really, you probably just should have had a lot more hitting or slapping just through them to some extent, or deflections just to, okay, we're just going to pummel you until we get something, and we're just going to go, or whatever. That you might get caught off the off chance with a counter-attack, but then you just can do a counter-press by picking up the ball. So that was a bit of a shame, because I know some of the players from uni, so it's like, I'm really gutted for them, because I know they're such good players and deserve probably at least a bronze, to be fair. But
yeah,
hey-ho,
absolutely.
That's the Olympics.
It's a shame when the strategy doesn't pay off, because we don't realise that that's essentially what's at play, right? It's the strategy that fails and doesn't come through, or like the people, like what's the phrase, like you lose your head or whatever, when people just like lose their head. Because again, you'll see it in the running, don't you? When somebody's doing really well in the last 100 meters, they just literally do not have energy to pick up the pace, and then everybody else passes them, and you feel gutted for them because they just literally have run out of energy. So
I have been daydreaming the fact that, imagine if I got to the Olympics with the hockey team and my main aim was to get a gold. Actually, the last 3 Olympics that probably would have worked for my age, maybe let's say the next one I might be able to push, for argument's sake, I still wouldn't be able to get gold. And I think that's the fascinating thing with the team sport. To some extent, you sort of want to be a director of sport to influence the whole infrastructure to get them to a place of competing for medals. But actually, if you line up with either a good crop of Netherlands players or German players that are way more better than you, or a bad crop of GB players or whatever, not that they are, I think they're a good one at the moment, but it's a shame that it's like, if your dream is to hit gold at the Olympics from a team sport, particularly a big team sport, it must be quite tough if that's your only goal. I think it's probably more so like a hockey goal than a football, because there's more competition and you get more known. And I guess it's that you build a personality through the Premier League or Champions League and those types of remits, and you can build a lifestyle. But I think there's a difference when your sport relies more on the Olympics, especially if you're training for 4 years to then hoping and aiming to get some sort of medal and not even getting anywhere close to it, which is a shame. Must be hard.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, right? One thing I thought was cool is each team, some teams have reserves. So, for example, in the relay, they had a reserve. In the cycling, some of the sprinting, they have reserves. Now, in the relay, obviously, again, you do your rounds. So one individual, like, of that group, let's say the 5 of them, right? Like, one of them ran in that. And then in the final, somebody else ran. And because that person in the first round, like, ran and they got through, all 5 of them got medals. And I'm like, that's cool. One individual didn't even run in the final, but because they contributed to the team progressing, they got a medal too. And I was like, that's a real cool way to, like, up your chances, as it were. Of course, then you're down to, like, whether or not your team, let's say your team wins in the final, great. If they're not going to win in the final, well, it's hard. You have no control over, like, enhancing that because you're not involved in it. But I thought that was cool because, again, these reserve people, They will have trained the same amount, right? Ready to step in if somebody has an injury or whatever. However, when it comes to a medal, they don't actually get a medal. And I understand why, but it would be kind of like interesting to see if a reserve person gets like secretly gets a medal behind the scenes anyway. I don't know. Maybe they don't. So they train the same amount and they're ready to step in.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, but yeah, overall Olympics, I think I've only just kept tabs with the hockey with the GB stuff. Apart from that, it's all the opening ceremony, kick-off on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. That's the only other stuff that I've come across, really.
I noticed that one guy has won 5 consecutive gold medals for the same sport. And that's the only person that's ever done it. He's a guy from Cuba, and he's doing like, I'm not sure if it's wrestling. There'll be a proper name for it, right? But it's kind of like that American-style wrestling, you know, when they've got those like people that are trying to like pin you down or whatever. It's that type of thing in a circle. And he's won 5 consecutive medals. He's now like in his 40s or whatever. I'm like, that's pretty cool because it's the first ever person to win 5. I think before it was 4. So him becoming 5 is like right now he's the main guy, which I think was really cool.
That's impressive. Longevity there.
Oh yeah, for sure, which is great. So, all right, final 8 minutes. You got a topic to throw about?
8-minute topic. What should we talk about first? Let's do the eliminate, automate, delegate. We could have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, just before you jump into that, I think another thing that, because we're talking about like ideas and stuff, right now people have just watched a bunch of Olympics. They should target their hometown with Facebook ads with like, did you see the Olympics? This stuff, so they could get a bunch of new signups. I was thinking this for your hockey teams. They start delivering like, did you see Team GB? But it would only really work if it would work better if they had a gold or something. You're like, do you want a gold medal? Well, come and train for us for the next 4 years, and that would be your like sports club ad.
Yeah.
So like, if
because that's the thing,
when
you
Jade
win
gets her gold, you'd be like, right, let's advertise taekwondo, right?
Yeah, because that's the thing is when you get gold, you just get elevated to a whole new another level. It's like if you win the World Cup, it's like people follow you, people know what you're about, and people want to buy into that idea.
Yeah.
But if you don't hit that medal, sometimes people are like, oh, I enjoyed watching it a bit, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah. They're like, well, I won't be able to win a gold even if I put in the effort because a really good team can't even win it. So
yeah,
I think it brings more of a hope when you're like, oh, our nation can win a gold in XYZ. But no.
Agreed. Yeah, go on. Run you three lines again.
So I came across a social post and I mentioned it to Dan yesterday that I'd probably do this as more personally to me, but I thought we'd throw it out there for the old community. And it basically talks about the goal of Mind Map is to see where you can, and then it's the top first, second, third. So first is eliminate. So eliminate things from your life that maybe is distracting you from your goal or pulling you away or whatever. Automate, so things that might not necessarily need to involve you, but still need to get done. And you might be able to automate it through different AIs or stuff like that. And then delegate, is there anyone that's in your life that might be able to take it up, or you, I guess, employ someone or get a contract and stuff. Yeah, I guess, have you done this before, or is there areas that you're like, actually, I'd like to do more automation or more elimination or more delegation? I guess that would probably be a shorter discussion.
Yeah, I found the elimination thing the most interesting. So there are similar things around, like, you know, every so often you quit something, every so often you change something, right? It's the keeping things fresh. I think the elimination one is the easiest. It might be hard to do it. However, it's the most beneficial, I think. I always have automation kind of like baked in because I'm always trying to find the fastest or the easiest or the simplest or the one with the least effort method in any way. I think the one thing I do find hard is delegation, because I typically feel like, well, that individual won't do it as passionately as I will because this is my thing or whatever. So I find that one harder to do because it's a trust aspect. But I recognize really it's the whole, if you want to go fast, go your own, go solo or go by yourself. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with others. So having that team, if you take anything, most things in the world have been built by teams that are still around, that have succeeded and succeeded beyond kind of like a typical like 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, right? It's all team-based things. So yeah, I would say I find it harder to do the delegation one. I naturally automate, and every so often I do cancel stuff or like back out of stuff. Sounds bad, but like I think that's an important thing of like, why am I actually doing this? Is this kind of like adding to what my purpose is? And sometimes we can get confused because something might look very good and complement well, but it's a little bit off to the side, and having that nuance is important.
And that's the thing. The guy said why the elimination is first is because you might randomly automate and delegate things where really it's a distraction. So you don't want to create a lifestyle that you've automated and delegated, because that might incur costs to do so and just brain power to keep on top of everything. Actually, the first thing you should do is, are you keeping to where you want to go? Cut a couple of things, then automate it, because I guess with automation it's more technology routes, I'm assuming, or transport or something that's doesn't involve people. And then the delegation is probably more time consuming, but also more rewarding of once you can find a team or a person that you can rely on, or you know that you can build up. It is, you get a lot more for your money, but it takes time to get to that place at the end of the day.
Elimination really helps you become more serious, doesn't it? And kind of like attack the real issues. It's the whole analogy of like Aladdin in the cave, where the monkey was like distracted by the ruby, but they never went in for the ruby. However, if you came out of the cave with a ruby, everybody would be like, that's great, right? But they didn't go in there for the ruby, they went in there for the genie, right? The lamp. So in having that elimination, you can be more serious and more kind of like honest with yourself, to not kind of like, well, I went in there and I got a ruby. Isn't that something to be celebrated? And you can kind of like get rid of this like fake celebration, because that's not really why you're here doing this journey. And it might be that you decided to get the ruby because you got scared, and that's fine. But let's be honest about that and address it so you can like attack it. And that's something that I spoke about like yesterday on my video, around how like fear and the energy required to overcome the fear can sometimes put you off doing it, and can create that alternative narrative that you now go down to kind of like validate the fact that it was the right thing to do, which is hard. So I think I always struggle with delegation as well, and probably a little bit of automation, because I think if I don't know the technical skills or products, I need to do research to find out what I can actually automate, because I'm trying to practice do a little bit more. I know on my personal socials is throw them all in at the same time, the long form and all the short forms, and then just schedule them. Obviously, I know it's me posting it, but the fact that I don't need to go up and sort of do the task every day at a certain time or whatever, it's that element of automation of, okay, at least I'm automating when it goes live, so then I can do all the task in one sort of sitting, as it were. Batching.
So trying to definitely improve on those things. Plus, I find to some extent elimination, I think because it's so easy, I think for myself, of when I get overwhelmed, cutting things out of your life makes you feel good. So actually it can be like, to some extent, rewarding, not in a good sense, because let's say you're overburdening yourself quite regularly, then you're just getting the joy of cutting things out of your life, but then you're not actually getting anywhere, because you're coming up with ideas and then you maybe execute the idea, then you pull it back and cut it back, and then you come up with another idea. So it can be, I guess, aware that you're not just eliminating things for the fun of things. That's why I think it's good to be like, okay, if step 2 is automate and delegate, can you have that in your mindset at the same time?
Amazing. And I think that's a perfect point to end on. Thanks again for watching. We'll chat to you later.
Bye.